morning, students, staff, guests, and special guests, the veterans and active duty members of the United States Armed Forces, for joining us in a virtual format for the 2020 Thomas Jefferson Middle School Veterans Day program. We're honored to have you join us as we recognize and honor the sacrifice of the millions of veterans and their families that have been made throughout the course of our history. Due to the virtual format of this year's program, we're unable to recognize individual veterans in person. However, at this time, I would like to take a moment to recognize and thank each of them for their dedication and service to our country. Veterans Day, originally known as Armistice Day, was first celebrated on November 11th, 1919, the one-year anniversary of the end of World War I. 2020 marks the 101st anniversary of Armistice or Veterans Day. For over 50 years, Thomas Jefferson Middle School has proudly celebrated and honored our veterans in our annual Veterans Day program. At this time, I ask that you please stand for the presentation of colors by members of the American Legion Post 94 Valparaiso, followed by the National Anthem and Pledge of Allegiance.
Honor guard, and hut. Present arms. At the half step. Port arms. At the half step. Forward march. Detail halt. Prepare to post. Post. Present march. Two. Great base. At the half step. Forward, march. Detail halt.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Each fall, Mrs. Joel and Mr. Krenz discuss Veterans Day with their 8th grade social studies classes. Students are then encouraged to write an essay about a special veteran in their life. As the assistant principal, I have the honor of receiving and reading all of the submitted essays. Every one is inspiring and truly honors those veterans who are important and meaningful people in the lives of our young students. I have chosen 2 8th grade students to read their essays today. I am pleased to introduce Katie Scheidler and Kathleen Gretzinger.
To me, Juan Alfonso Rivera is my grandfather and an amazing role model. But to the Air Force, he was a brave Air Force policeman. He lived for 60 years and died in 2003. I was born in 2007, so I did not get to meet him, but I still read his letters. He was born in Puerto Rico but moved to Glen Park, Indiana, where he was raised. He's one of 14 with 7 sisters and 6 other brothers, which taught him lots of patience before leaving for the Air Force. To my grandfather, Juan, joining the Air Force was extremely important. To him, joining the Air Force was a way to pay back the country. He also felt very strongly about giving his service because he felt it was something he needed to do. He left in 1962 at the age of 18. He didn't return for 4 more years, leaving his fiancée behind. Juan was an Air Force policeman, which he often referred to his title as a PA. His training was located in Lachlan, Texas, and he spent 2 years there according to his letters. After his training in Texas, he was then stationed in London, England, where he served for 2 years. His jobs in London, England included guarding gates, trains, and minefields. He also got to guard the plane that President Kennedy was on, which he often refers to as his greatest accomplishment. After my grandfather returned, he had been greatly impacted by his experience. When asking my grandmother about his experience that it had on him, her answer was simple. He left a boy and came back a man. She also talked about the difference in his attitude after coming back and how much he had matured. She expressed that a boy maturing isn't a bad thing unless it's too fast, which she feels may have happened to him. When he was gone, he left my grandmother devastated and sad. She was unable to see him and only got to see him 1 week out of every year, which wasn't very much. I chose to honor my grandfather Juan because even though I didn't get the opportunity to meet him myself, I still look up to him. After reading his letters and hearing stories about him, he is someone I wish I got to meet. I think he's a good person to honor because he's not only went into the Air Force at 18 and left his fiancée, but he also guarded the plane that President Kennedy was on. Guarding the president was a major accomplishment, and the pictures of him guarding the president are things that my family will always look at.
The person that I chose to present to you is my grandfather, John Gretzinger. My grandfather was in the military for 5 years. To me, this is not only my grandfather, but someone who I can look up to and see how he worked to protect and help our country. Not only did he work in the military, he also is a dad and a grandfather. My grandfather grew up in a lot of places, but mostly in Flint, Michigan. The reason that my grandfather joined the military is because he had just gotten out of school and the military was drafting people, those who were just like him, that were between the ages of 18 and 26, fit and healthy and could work hard. So instead of sitting around scared that he was going to be drafted, he decided that he would go into it anyway. The time that he served there was from 1968 to 1973. This is right in the middle of the Vietnam War in which he served in. These were some of the scariest, hardest, and most fun times of his life. My grandfather worked in the Army. He had to do long, hard training in many places, but mainly in Fort Walters, Texas, and the Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia, where he learned how to fly helicopters and tanks. Although he learned how to operate tanks, he mostly flew helicopters. His job when flying helicopters was to do search and rescue, medical drop-offs, and troop deployment. This affected him in the way that he was in a lot of the scary and intense experiences. For instance, he told me that one time he was picking up a team of rangers because they had no way to get out. The way he would collect them, since he couldn't land, he would drop 120-foot ropes down with slings. Then he would lift them until he could find a place to land and let them in the aircraft. But as he was picking up one man, he flipped upside down. Luckily, one foot was stuck in the sling and was holding him up. But at this time, they were 1,500 feet in the air, so he had to find the closest place to land, which happened to be a swamp, where he landed the man and went head first into the swamp. Luckily, they got him out in time and gave him CPR, and he survived. This was only one of the many things that happened to him, and this is one of the many ways that affected him. In conclusion, my grandfather was a great hero who not only helped our country, but other people fighting in our country. This is the reason that I am honoring my grandfather, because he had to risk his life and help fight in the Vietnam War. As stated in the previous paragraph, you can see that he had to give up a lot to help his country. This is why I think that we should honor my grandfather, John Gretzinger, and all the other veterans who risked their lives to protect the country.
Veterans Day provides the opportunity to honor and pay tribute to 18.2 million living veterans of the United States Armed Forces. Today, we are honored to welcome one of those veterans, Mr. Michael Bernison, to share his thoughts about Veterans Day. As a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade student, Michael attended TJMS. He went on to graduate from Valparaiso High School in 2003, where he was a 4-year varsity wrestler and 2-time state qualifier in wrestling. After high school, Michael completed 9 years of service in the United States Marine Corps, including 2 deployments in Iraq, and 1 in Afghanistan. He obtained the rank of sergeant before receiving an honorable discharge. In 2017, Michael was hired by the Porter County Sheriff's Department. During his service as a deputy, he served as a jail officer, patrolman, is a member of the Porter County SWAT team, and a school resource officer at Boone Grove Schools. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Bernison.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Mullen for reaching out to me and inviting me to talk on Veterans Day. Also, I'd like to thank all the school teachers and, of course, all of you students. It's an honor and privilege for this opportunity. As mentioned before, my name is Michael Bernison. I've grown up here in Valparaiso and have also attended Thomas Jefferson Middle School a long time ago. Boy, has it changed since then. Some of you may have family members or friends that have had served in the military or served a long time ago. If you can, give them a thank you from me. There have been many great service members from all branches that have gone before me, and personally, I thought of no better way than to repay them by joining the military myself. Now, I'm not going to try and recruit all of you by saying you should join the military by any means. Sometimes the military isn't for everyone. But when Mr. Mullen asked me to speak, the first thing that came to my mind was teamwork. I know it may sound a little silly because you're saying it's Veterans Day. What does teamwork have to do with Veterans Day? Don't worry, it makes sense. It's my own take on Veterans Day. And teamwork is how I feel is the best way as a TJ Middle School student to say thank you to a veteran. I know most of you have heard people say thank you to a vet out in the street and they continue about their day, and that's very much appreciated. Some people say you just live your life to the fullest and say thank you that way to veterans for them making the country the way it is today. But I believe there's a way you as an individual student can say thank you, and that's through teamwork. So to give you an example, TJ and BF, I'm assuming they still have the big rivalry, right? They have TJ football game, track, cross-country meets. Much as the rivalry between TJ and BF, America's different military branches claim to be the best. We all know who the best is. That's the Marine Corps, of course. Gotta give props to my Marine Corps. Sorry. But with all those branches put together, they make America's team. Same way that TJ and BF students come together to make the good old green and white Valpo team at the high school. See how I did that? So during this crazy year of 2020, we need to come together as a nation, as a community, right down to our level as a student at TJ Middle School, and that's with teamwork. You see someone needs to help out with some schoolwork, walking down the hallway, having some troubles, offer them a helping hand. Maybe you see some sort of rumors or jokes about a student. Don't spread anything you don't know. Maybe find the source and ask, hey, what's really going on here? Sometimes a miscommunication can be ironed out, and it can help stop a bullying situation or any kind of mean incident between students. Of course, I don't mean go stick your nose in everybody's business, but you know what I mean. think of everyone as a teammate and you want to help each other out. That's just my take on saying thank you to veterans at an individual level. It's kind of contagious. You help someone out, you feel good, they feel good, and just continues on from there. At the very least, you'll help your school and community be a better place. So in conclusion, it's okay to thank a vet, but the best way to show thanks is to be a team player in your community. It's also okay to help a schoolmate out as a teammate. Thank you for your time and attention, and Semper Fidelis.
In a moment, we will conclude today's program with Mrs. Hummel reading I Am an American and the 8th grade orchestra accompanying her with God Bless America. The playing of taps by 8th grade trumpeters will follow and conclude today's program. At this time, I ask that you please stand and remain standing through the conclusion of the program.
Today, we honor not only our veterans, but also America. We are grateful that we can show pride in our country throughout the year, and we have an opportunity each day of the school year to express our pride in America by saying our Pledge of Allegiance with sincerity. We have had the opportunity today to say our pledge again and to sing our national anthem. We are blessed to live in this free country. There are many ways to express our pride in America. I will read one person's eloquent expression of patriotism and what it means to be an American. Al G. Wright, who was then director of bands at Purdue University, wrote I Am an American in 1966. He wrote this at a time of political and social unrest as his way to display patriotism. It is still read today during the Purdue University pregame show at every home football game, and it has become a tradition of the Thomas Jefferson Middle School Veterans Day program. In a moment, we will listen while the orchestra plays America the Beautiful, and I read I Am an American. At the end, I will signal for you to stand as you are able and say the last line with me. I am an American. Say it proudly. Say it firmly. Do not shout it or whisper it, but say it in your normal voice and say it like you mean it. Please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence in honor of all veterans and their families, and remain standing as we conclude our program with the playing of taps. I am an American. That's the way most of us put it, just matter-of-factly. They are plain words, these four. You could write them on your thumbnail, or you could sweep them clear across this bright autumn sky. But remember, too, that they are more than words. They are a way of life. So whenever you speak them firmly, speak them proudly, speak them gratefully. I am an American.